Now we're
You're ready.
okay. Let me again welcome you here to this presentation that we're going to be briefly doing here on foods and building better health. You know, the number one causes of problems for people today are the diets that we have. Primarily, when we start considering the American standard diet, when we look at it, it is a high carbohydrate diet, low fat diet. It should be the other way around. The reason why we have so much diabetes, why we have so much obesity, cancer, um, when we consider what's actually going on with insulin resistance and some of the other major modalities that people are affected by today, autoimmune disorders, is coming as a result of our diets. This is where we have to look at first. When the diet is wrong, then medicine doesn't work anyway. If the diet is correct, then medicine is of no need. And people have known this in various parts of the world for a very, very long time. We're just starting to become aware of it here in America, this part of the world, where we're starting to realize that even though we're taking medications on a regular basis, and some of us are told that we need to take medications for the rest of our lives, and we're doing it, the health doesn't get any better. The health doesn't get any better because the diet doesn't get any better. Your food should be your medicine. So we look at the things that are really affected or produced as a result of the standard American diet, and we come to the conclusion that the carbohydrates, particularly the simple carbohydrates, are the problem. Your cereal, your bread, your pizza, your pasta, your rolls, your cakes, your cookies, your rolls, your donuts, your pies, your sugars, sodas. These are the problems or the foods really that's leading to the problems. And basically, what problems are we really talking about? We're talking about obesity, we're talking about insulin resistance, we're talking about inflammation. Those are the three major factors that's leading to all these other complications that we have. They're a spinoff. But where's it coming from? Too many of the simple carbohydrates. We need more fats in the diet. We need more protein in the diet. And if we start eating more protein and fat, um, while some would tell you that eating more fat is going to cause heart problems, that's not true. The problem literally comes as a result of you eating too many carbohydrates and the pancreas becoming insulin resistant. Once the pancreas becomes insulin resistant, then sugar or glucose is staying in the bloodstream, and now insulin stays in the bloodstream also because the cell isn't receptive to glucose because it's insulin resistant, and you need insulin in order to get the glucose into the cell. So as the sugar builds up or the glucose builds up in the bloodstream, ultimately it converts to fat. When it converts to fat, then the portal vein literally carries it to the liver. What we're finding at an escalating, a very, very rapid rate here in America and also throughout the world, many people are starting to suffer from non alcoholic fatty liver. It's probably one of the fastest growing disorders of people everywhere. Why is it taking place? It's taking place because of the carbohydrates, not because of fat. Most of all, or very well, I could just about say all of your hormones are made of fat. Most all of your hormones come from cholesterol. So fat is not the problem. We've been told that fat is the problem. 1960, basically the health industry told Americans that we needed a high carbohydrate, low fat diet. And between 1960 and 1980, 1960, about 14% of the people were overweight or obese. By the time we got to 1980, it was almost 40% of the public. And now we can look at the public today, here in 2023, we're up to 65%, almost 70% of the people are overweight or obese. Well, where's it coming from? It's coming from the diet. What in the diet? It's coming from the carbohydrates in the diet. Many of you have heard of the Atkins diet. Robert Atkins was a medical doctor. He was hypertensive. He was overweight. He was borderline diabetic. He was borderline diabetic, and so he looked at he asked the question why, which all of us should. If you're overweight, you should ask yourself why. If you can't sleep well at night, you should ask yourself why. If you don't have energy and vitality, you should ask yourself why. These are questions that we should all ask ourselves when we know that the body is out of balance. But Robert Atkins did. And he looked at the food groups. He looked at the carbohydrates, he looked at the fats, he looked at the proteins. And he came to the conclusions the problem is in the carbohydrates. The recommended daily allowance was 300 grams per day. He said, I'm going to cut it down to 20 grams per day. And he did. And when he cut the carbohydrate intake down to 20 grams a day, he lost weight. His vital signs start to come into range. And then he started putting his clients on it. And he basically came out and said the 3 foods that are vital for you to have good health are the proteins, the fats, and fibers. He didn't see the carbohydrates as being essential. And when we started thinking about proteins and amino acids, because amino acids make up proteins, you have approximately 21, 22 amino acids. 8 or 9 of them are essential, which means that you cannot get them. The body doesn't make them. They have to come from outside. Same thing with essential fatty acids. Omega-6, omega-9, omega-3, those essential fatty acids, you need those to come from outside. And then we all know we need fibers. We need fibers to act as a broom to clean up the gastrointestinal tract and aid also in digestion. So he didn't see the carbohydrates as essential in the diet in order for us to have good health. And so here's what I suggest for people today, clients as well as those that I'm talking to now. You start to cut down the consumption of your carbohydrates. If you want to lose weight, cut the carbohydrates down. If you're having other problems, if you're having joint problems, if you're having problems with pain, you can't sleep well at night, cut the carbohydrates down. Maybe some of you have cancer. You're going to do better if you start cutting the carbohydrates down. Cancer cells love sugar. Sugar is the favorite food. A cancer cell picks up 100 to 200 times the sugar or the glucose than a regular cell. Your regular cells or your normal cells, they like sugar, but cancer loves sugar. So if you're high in the carbohydrate diet, which literally is converting into sugar or glucose, and you've got these complications that I'm talking to you about, inflammation, obesity, or insulin resistant, the more of these carbohydrates you take into the diet or that you have in your diet, the more you're going to perpetuate what's actually going on with you presently. So if you want to get control of your health, and I'm sure you do, the best thing for you to do right now is start cutting the carbohydrates. Increase your fats, more of the olive oil, more of the coconut oil, more of the flaxseed oil, more of the borage oils, more of the black seed oil. Increase the oils in the diet, and it'll take you into a ketosis state and take you out of this state of having too much sugar in the bloodstream. And if you have too much sugar in the bloodstream, then the possibility of you becoming a diabetic is very, very real. And if you're overweight, then all the complications that come from diabetes, which is cancer, which is these autoimmune disorders, which is inflammation, all of this starts to come as a result of a person just being overweight. So the place to start is getting control basically of your insulin. And you get control of your insulin by controlling the consumption of sugars. And when I say sugars here, I'm also talking about wheat, because wheat converts into sugar. Starches convert into sugar. In fact, we call it carbohydrates today, but before we call it just starch. That's what we call it. But the starch converts to sugar. So if you want to get control of your life, and I'm sure most of you do, and you're having these problems, the place for you to look first is with the sugar. Cut the sugar. Sugar's a leach. It's going to leach calcium from your bones, calcium from your teeth, calcium from your blood. Sugar is the worst thing. And you got to start considering the foods that you're eating. Those foods particularly that have a lot of fructose in it. You want to help your children get control of their health? Then try to stop them from eating sugar. Let them know that these models of possibility that they admire out in the arts or athletes, they don't eat sugar. They don't eat sugar like the average American eats sugar. The average American is eating 200 to 250 pounds of sugar annually. They don't eat sugar like that. They may be sponsors of it. Their voices may be used and their personalities may be used to market those things. But for all practical purposes, they don't eat those things at the level that most of us are eating potato chips and sodas and sandwiches and those type of things. They market them, but they don't eat them like that. So tell your children to examine the lives of these people and find out how they're able to become as successful as they do for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and achieve at the level of proficiency as they do. Because basically all your children see is that person in front of them. They see the bling and they see the personality, but they don't see how that person got there. And that's the part that you got to do. And I say that, find models of possibility for your children that they admire, and then introduce them to that side of that person's life, as opposed to the side that the marketing industry gives to them. So I'm going to stop here today. And perhaps we'll come back maybe later on today. And if not later on today, maybe tomorrow or sometime soon, and continue on with this particular message. You all have a healthy and pleasant day. It's been good talking to you.